Hi, how are you doing? I love this question. In my business as president of an executive search firm, it's a real important question to ask because I need to ascertain real quickly how someone's going to do in their first interview and that first impression. If someone answers, can't complain, or not bad, well, the subconscious doesn't disseminate the negative. And I know that that person that can't complain is going to be a complainer, and the person not bad is probably not going to be president of an optimist club. I love to answer that question a different way. And I've had the good fortune of being interviewed as a career expert in support of the Bliss List, the ultimate guide to living the dream at work and beyond. Whenever I'm asked that from a radio or television host or hostess, I love to enthusiastically answer, I'm living the dream. It generally throws them off the chair. They're not used to that kind of enthusiasm in an otherwise negative media, but it's true, it's not lip service. I am living the dream. I get to help other people find their dream jobs. I get to work for clients that I choose, and overall, I love what I do. Well, I haven't always been living the dream, and my tale is a hard one for a lot of people to understand. It's more of a riches yet rags tale, and I'll expound on that. Coming out of college, I had my sights set. I knew it all, and I wanted to be a vice president of a major corporation. Pretty lofty goal, but I was so set on that goal. Well, for the next 9 years, I was fortunate. I worked for some great companies, had some phenomenal mentors, and climbed that ladder. In 9 years, I held, I think, 7 different positions, moved all around. And then I got to that point where I was offered vice president with a Fortune 30 company. The world was my oyster. I was at the top of the ladder. Only problem was I was miserable. And here on the surface, I had the great job and the nice office and all the trappings, but I was miserable. I hated what I did. I traveled too much. I had a boss that was less than desirable to work for. That's an understatement. I was at odds with coworkers. I was at odds with myself. Physically, I was sick a lot. And though I was here financially, I was bankrupt in so many other ways. It ultimately led to the breakdown and the dissolution of my marriage. I went through a bitter divorce. Well, the good news of all this is, I think from hitting the low point, I was able to claw back up and find my real core. And I returned to some of the books from some authors that had such an influence on me that I had pushed aside. I had let my ego grow taller than the very buildings I worked in. And from authors such as Wallace Wattles, Jose Silva, and Napoleon Hill, I was able to really realize how much of a taker I had become. And what I learned from rereading is life is about giving. The more you give, the more you receive. And it's all about service to others. So I applied those principles, and I really made a concerted effort to change. And I applied those principles to a new business I started up that I've been doing for 17 years. Well, within a short period of time, almost as if flipping a switch, new doors started opening up. I was attracting great clients in business. I loved what I was doing. And life was starting to return to a beautiful place. Everything was blossoming. Let me tell you a story about somebody I met recently on a flight. We'll call her Wendy. I was coming out of an interview that I had done, my first national TV interview, so I was flying higher than the plane. And Wendy was sitting next to me, and she asked me how I was doing. Well, you know my answer. So I asked her in return how she was doing, and she was giving me that eye as she said reluctantly, well, I'd love to be living the dream too, but, and then she gave me all these things, all this conditional living the dream answer. And when I heard her talk, it reminded me so much of where I had fallen when that ladder collapsed. So it was really easy for me to hear Wendy and help her. So I said, Wendy, I've been in the same shoes you've been in, and believe it or not, I can give you some advice that'll really help, but you've got to really commit to it. And she was excited, so we sat down. She took out a pad of paper, and together we wrote out 7 goals. She wanted to focus on her appearance. She felt like she was overweight. She felt like she was broke all the time. She wanted to improve her finances. She wanted to improve her life at home, her life at work. So the biggest thing I gave to Wendy was, in each of these goals, let's focus on one thing, and that's gratitude. Become a server of others versus the taker. And at the end, she was real excited. Well, I went my way, she went hers at the end of the flight, and I really hoped when I left that she would really take all of the things that we had talked about to heart and practice them. But I had no idea, knowing it was up to her. So anyway, About 60 days later, I get an email out of the blue, and it was from Wendy. And she was glowing in this email. It was unbelievable. She had gone 7 for 7. She had gotten promoted to director. Her finances had improved with the new pay. She loved her new boss. She was really enjoying her job. She felt respected by coworkers. She was even losing weight. So she had gone 7 for 7 in a short period of time, only 60 days. And with Wendy, now as a director, the interesting thing was she was able to make a decision to purchase a large amount of books for her employer and to hand out to employees. So she asked me if she could buy several $1,000s worth of books from me, which I had to laugh because 60 days earlier or so, I'd given her a copy of my book. Last thing I could do was charge her $20 or whatever for a book when she's told me how broke she was. So here it was, this handing over the book came back 1,000-fold. I'm here to tell you, her story and my story is not unique. So many people are living in misery, and you don't have to. When you're asked that question, how are you doing? Think about how you answer. And if it's anything short of living the dream, know this, you have a choice. And you can live your own dream. As I always like to say in closing, be your bliss.